The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
Dror, hi. Thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure to talk about generative AI, which has been one of the best and most talked about technologies so far. So it's interesting to have an insight from a real expert on this topic.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk to you about Gen AI. I'm really excited about it.
Dror, so artificial intelligence has been around for decades. People have been developing it, but for the general audience, AI and Gen AI have been around for more or less a few years. So big thanks to ChatGPT and alike programs that allowed us to use the interface very easily. I'd like to think about and talk about what generative AI has brought to the table in the last few years.
So it's really an amazing scale of development and events that happened in the last few years. Generative AI has been around for years, I would say maybe 8 to 10 years. But the rate of development has really accelerated recently. I started working with this technology around 2017, 2018. At that point, it was GPT-2, GPT-3, and the technology was only available to programmers. You could only access it through an API, through an interface, through software functions. And I was really amazed by it because, you give a prompt, you ask something, you get a paragraph of text, and it's very useful. But the moment you're talking about, this ChatGPT moment, which happened on November 30th, 2022, was when ChatGPT was available to anyone through the web, and people started using it. And then we became aware of the real potential. And since then, it started a cycle because companies became aware of the potential, so they started developing more. And people were aware of the potential, so the demand began to increase. And this started a cycle where in the past almost 2.5 years, the development has been enormous in this field.
Based on the statistics we see, so ChatGPT, for example, or any other, this type of Claude or any other available technology is mainly used by individual people and also by enterprises as well. Firstly, I'd like to focus on business, and I'd like to pick your brain a bit on the advice you would give to a company that thinks about using generative AI or any sort of technology called artificial intelligence in general for their business to scale, to be more efficient, etc. What they should think about in the first place?
So I think the first thing they should think about is planning for this process, because it's a process that will affect all of the organization. I call it a generative AI transformation project. Like we had the digital transformation, you move to the internet, at some point companies move to the cloud, and it's a project, you need to do a transformation. In this case, there are several aspects that are different. One of them is that it affects all the organization. It's not just for the IT people. Anybody can use generative AI in purchasing, in marketing, in HR, in finance. All of your employees can use it. Another aspect is it relates not only to the employees, but to the data of the organization. So you have to prepare the data so Gen AI can work on that data. And the third aspect, which is really the most significant, is the rate of change. You would do a cloud transformation project, you would plan it for a few months, implement it for a year, and then for 3 to 5 years, you're okay. You work with that cloud. But with Gen AI, every day, every week, there are new developments, new capabilities. Chatbots are working now much better than before. And now we're starting to have autonomous agents that can work for your organization. So I think the main change in an organization, in order to adopt generative AI, it has to be agile. It has to know how to integrate new technologies every few months and not every few years. And that's the only way that an organization can remain competitive in the era of generative AI, because otherwise, like two entrepreneurs with an army of 100 agents will take over the business.
Based on your experience, could you share one or maybe two examples of how generative AI has been used recently in a business to scale it or to just transform it in a way that has been unprecedented before?
Yes, so I do these processes of generative AI transformation for companies. It usually starts with a presentation to management. I show them the fast progress in the past few years, and then they understand both the importance and the urgency of implementing generative AI. And then we do trainings for the employees, and we set up a generative AI policy, which is very important, and internal knowledge centers, etc. Now, I used to tell the organizations, this is useful for all of your functions in the company. It can help you in marketing, in sales, logistics, purchasing, all of that. All the white-collar jobs, everybody that works on computers. Basically everyone except that person who actually operates a machine on the production line. But then I did this process in a company, a pharmaceutical company, and they produce the drugs inside the company. And we find a very interesting use case for those people who are operating machines. So it's useful for them also. And the use case is we upload the user manual of the machine into a generative AI tool like ChatGPT. And then we talk to an operator of the machine that has a lot of experience, and we interview this person for a few hours. And then we transcribe the interview, and we upload that to the ChatGPT or whatever chatbot you are using. And then a new employee who works on the machine can ask questions. So he has now this expert inside the machine. And if he has a problem with the machine, this expert will suggest ways to troubleshoot and to fix the problem. And now I can very easily build a training on operating the machine and a quiz, and I can check the quiz automatically. So the whole process of onboarding employees, which used to take 4 months, now can be done in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, this reminds me of the Omniverse project that NVIDIA launched recently, when they allow for robots to be trained independently of the physical environment somewhere in the cloud. So that's very interesting. I'd like to ask you about the common misconceptions that exist in businesses when, for instance, when they first start thinking about implementing generative AI in their processes.
So one of the things I see all the time is that companies say, generative AI is a hole in my security, and my data can leak through. And if I send prompts or produce documents with the generative AI tools, then somebody else can see those documents. So I'm going to ban all the generative AI tools in my company, and that's it. So companies who do that will find themselves very quickly behind because their competitors are using generative AI. And the truth is, I know where this misconception comes from, because by default, if you use the free version of those chatbots, they use your information for training. They use the prompts and they use the output for training. But you can very easily opt out in the settings and say, don't use my information for training. And if you buy an enterprise version of the chatbot, if you license it, by default, they don't use your information for training. So there's no reason to be afraid that something you write to the system will appear somewhere else. Now, it's true that your information resides on the server. In the case of ChatGPT, it's OpenAI. In the case of Copilot, it's Microsoft. In the case of Gemini, it's Google. But a lot of your other information resides on those servers, right? If you're using Office 365 or if you're using Google Workspace, your information is in the cloud anyway. So you can decide which company you trust and use that company's solution. But you shouldn't completely ban the tools just because of security concerns, because they're solvable. And if you have a very sensitive organization, like in defense or finance or something like that, you can also run the models locally. You can run them on your servers, on-prem or in the cloud, and then the information never goes out to the internet. And we have very good open source models today that are very near in their capabilities to the commercial models, and you can run them on-prem, and then you don't have any issue with security.
Look, for me as a person who uses ChatGPT and other models on a daily basis for basically everything, this is a very aha moment. Something like, in my opinion, I haven't been there when the internet first originated, but I think that it's something like that. But now people don't use it as much as they should, at least in Georgia for now. But I definitely see a future where Gen AI is a daily thing. It's something you do on the phone as you scroll payroll, for instance, something like that. In a world like that where everyone uses Gen AI, how do you differentiate the level to which businesses can use it effectively in terms of competition? When the competition is very stiff, what should businesses do to use Gen AI even more to be competitive and be better than anyone else?
So this again brings me back to the issue of adoption. You need to adopt the latest tools, and you need to be an agile organization that follows the development. You need to have a small team in-house that uses the newest tools and tries them on business processes of your organization, and then comes up with conclusions of what works and what doesn't work for you. And if you have this process and it's efficient, you can use it and can be up to date. If you are slow in your adoption and only today starting to use like ChatGPT or something like that, you will fall behind. When your competitor is also is already trying out the new agents, which can bring even more productivity to the organization. So the key to be competitive is to be adaptive and to be agile.
What are the main myths that exist in the Gen AI and in general AI sphere today, which might interrupt this process of adoption?
So, and you mentioned that people here are not using it enough. And I think one of the things they're afraid of is technology. They think this is technology, this is deep technology. I'm not a technical person, I'm not going to use it. So the truth is, of course, under the hood, there's deep technology. There are neural networks and large language models and embeddings and vectors and stuff like that. But when you use it, it's a very simple interface, right? It's like you use WhatsApp. You message it. You send a message, you get an answer like you get it from a person. And if you use the mobile app, you can even talk to it with your own voice. So it's like you're talking to a person. And this is very natural. And because of this natural interface, everybody can actually use it. They can use it as a companion. They can use it to learn. They can use it as a private tutor. And I think this potential is not realized enough. But it can really help you. It can help students in school in whatever subject that they study. It can ask them questions. It can teach them according to their level. It can even bring metaphors from a world they're familiar with. For example, teach me about the theory of relativity, but I love rock music, so tell me about things from rock music. And then it says, okay, so you're in this rock band, and suddenly they're going on a solo, and this is like the speed of light and things like that. So it makes it much more engaging for those students when they study and they get the explanation and they can connect to that field. So I think there's really great potential in using it in education. And again, anybody can use it. And you mentioned before the mindset. You have the mindset. You're using it every day. I think everyone can use it every day. Your mindset should be, for any question I have, before I go to Google, before I ask somebody, first I go to ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or Claude and ask them, what do you think? What is the answer? And if you adopt this mindset, you can really be much more productive.
That's so true, because I haven't used Google in a very long time now, because it's just inefficient. The technology, when you can get like the whole proper answer with the context and background, it's just so much better. This topic brings me to my another question, which is about the use of generative AI by individual people to launch businesses. And I know you have a lecture on that topic, how to launch a business with, or how to prepare a business plan with ChatGPT. Could you please share a few insights on this topic?
Yes, so this is actually a project that I did 2 years ago. So it was like 5 or 6 weeks after ChatGPT launched. And I played it with ChatGPT from day one. And my background is entrepreneurship and startups and VCs. So I tried to see how can I use it with documents that I need, with strategies that I need for my startup. So, and then I challenged myself. I said, I am going to build a startup using ChatGPT alone in 60 minutes, in 1 hour, from the stage I have no idea what I want to do until the exit. And I managed to meet my challenge, and there were articles about it in the local media. And first I asked ChatGPT, how do you build a startup? So ChatGPT told me, and this was ChatGPT 3.5, you know, since then we have several generations that are better, but even then it was amazing what it could do. It said you need an idea, and then you need a business plan, then you go to investors, and you build your company, and then you grow it, and then you sell your product, and finally you can sell the company. I said, okay, let's start with stage one, idea. Can you give me an idea for a company that has innovative technology and has a potential for large revenues? He said, of course, and he gave me dozens of ideas. Finally, I picked one, and it was a company for analyzing legal documents. And I said, okay, what should we call this company? So it gave me some ideas from name, and I picked Contract IQ. I really liked the name. And then I said, give me a slogan for the company. And it gave me slogans that were not very good, so I said, now give me something witty, something whimsical. So it came up with reading between the lines, Contract IQ. I said, wow, that's nice. For something that analyzes legal documents, that's great. And then I said, okay, now give me a presentation to investors, an executive summary, company mission, all of that. It built everything. And then it built my marketing plan and my website and tweets and all of that. But the really amazing part, when I asked it to build the product, I said, give me a spec for the product of analyzing legal documents. It gave me a spec. And then I said, okay, take this function from the spec and give me code. So it gave me code in Python for implementing that function. And in the code, I looked in the code and I saw it is looking for keywords. It's looking for keywords like shall and will and should, which have legal meaning. And based on these keywords, it is analyzing and classifying paragraphs in the document. So it actually built working code for a product that it invented, for a company that it invented. And that was really amazing. So I went on with marketing and development plan and all of that. And finally I said, if I reach $10 million sales, how can I sell the company? And ChatGPT said, well, there are several companies in legal tech that you can sell to. And it gave me the names. And finally I said, okay, now write an M&A contract with that company. It wrote the contract. So that's it. From the stage I had no idea until the exit, 60 minutes. Of course, I didn't build the company itself, only all the documents that are needed. But I posted this on LinkedIn as an open source so entrepreneurs can see that you can use ChatGPT or any other chatbot today for any function in your company, for marketing, for sales, for strategy even, for brainstorming. And that's what I learned from this project. And that's what I'm doing until today in helping organizations use it in any part of their business.
And it's incredible that it's only 2025 and the technology can do this now, and we could only imagine what will happen in 10, 15, 20 years. It's just the potential is very big. Right. Dror, I'd like to ask you about your visit here to Georgia, because you are part of a innovation lounge, which is an initiative launched by the Embassy of Israel. We have a very long history between our two nations. It's been centuries already, but now our partnership is mainly about innovation, because Israel obviously is one of the biggest and most important players in terms of startups, innovation, cybersecurity, whatever, basically everything. In your opinion, what does this sort of event, such as Innovation Lounge, how does it help the nations unite and share ideas and collaborate on the projects?
So Innovation Lounge is modeled based on a meetup that I set up in Israel 15 years ago that's called Haifa Beer Tech. So it's a monthly meetup of entrepreneurs and investors that come together and discuss technology and hear stories of entrepreneur, both success stories and failure stories, because you can also learn a lot from failures. And this has been going on for a long time, and it actually built the community. In my hometown of Haifa, which is in the north of Israel, we didn't have a lot of high-tech community there. Mostly was centered around Tel Aviv. So that actually built the community when people can come together. So I think Innovation Lounge is, first of all, a place to build a community, where people come together, they meet each other, they drink, they talk, they discuss ideas, they can form partnerships, they can build startups, they can find investors, they can get feedback on their existing ideas, and they can also hear stories from people who already did it. And I think that by bringing entrepreneurs and high-tech people from Israel that can tell their story, this can be a really great synergy of both forming a community among the people here in Tbilisi, and also hearing success stories and failure stories of entrepreneurs, how they built companies. You know, in Israel we have very large startup companies, We have dozens of unicorns, and you probably heard this week of the amazing exit of Wiz to Google, $32 billion, which is really one of the largest technology exits ever. So I think there's a lot to share and a lot to learn and to collaborate. And there are people here with great technical skills. And this connects again to AI, because today, all you need is an idea, and you can start using the generative AI tools not only to build the documents, but today also to build the software, to actually write client and server software, and to build an MVP, minimum viable product, with your bare hands, actually. So I think combining this technology with ideas and innovation and a community and hearing the stories and getting inspired will help build the tech ecosystem right here.
Thank you very much. It's been a very insightful and interesting interview, and good luck with Innovation Lounge, and good luck with all the projects that you've been and will be doing independently and in Israel and here in Georgia as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you very much.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.